Hey, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Katee Sackhoff. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for being here. I want to remind you before I tell you who the guest is to stick around for the hindsight after this episode. We have some fun stuff there. We talk about the episode. We also have some announcements about my life and what's going on and some special stuff. And send your questions and your comments to the sackhoffshow@gmail.com. We use those questions for a segment in the hindsight called the Mail Sack. Oh, you want to know where I am right now, Jeff?
Where?
I'm in New York at the premiere of Fight or Flight this week, doing press for that movie. So excited. Go check out Fight or Flight with Josh Hartnett and myself in theaters everywhere. And everyone, we are doing a live show coming up very soon in Nashville, Tennessee, just outside Nashville, Tennessee, May 16th. May 16th, Jeff and I are going to be not in Nashville, but outside Nashville. But we're going to be in Tennessee doing a live show. Super excited. And as always, we hope to see you there. This week's guest, I'm so excited. Y'all, this week's guest is my friend, Wil Wheaton. If you don't know who Wil is, he was in Stand By Me, Star Trek: The Next Generation. He is an author and an audiobook narrator. I want to read these because there's so many. He has done Ready Player One, The Martian, the Collapsing Empire trilogy. He is such an accomplished narrator of books, which brings me to the next thing that he's known for. It's Storytime with Wil Wheaton. It's his new podcast. He is so wonderful. You guys, I do listen to books on tape. I listen to podcasts more, but I do listen to books on tape as well. And Wil, every time I hear a book read by him, I want to check it out, just like his audience. And so I hope everybody has an opportunity and a chance to go check out It's Storytime with Wil Wheaton. We talk about that. We talk about life. We talk about so much during this episode, as usual on the Sackhoff Show. So I hope you stick around for it and you enjoy getting to know my friend, Wil Wheaton. I am so happy to see you. It's been so many years since I've seen you, and I think we've only actually met once, right?
Yeah, I was going through, I was like, gosh, I know that we've been in the same place a bunch of times, but I cannot remember the last time we actually traded words. I think it was at Seth MacFarlane's house for Christmas, over 10 years ago, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. And you know what's really funny is I've had a number of people on the podcast now where the last time I saw them was at Seth MacFarlane's Christmas party.
That's incredible. So it turns out that that is an extremely important load-bearing nexus in this timeline.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's super important that you are there.
Tells me that he needs to continue to do that. Maybe he is, and I'm no longer on the list. But I don't know. I feel
I'm
like
not on the list either. If they still happen, so maybe we could start our own. Maybe we could start our own Christmas parties with hookers and blackjack.
We should, but we should also just call it the Seth MacFarlane Christmas party. It's just like
with little asterisks. Seth MacFarlane will not be appearing at this party.
No association with Seth MacFarlane, right. And then like a long legal brief below it, so like we can't get sued by Seth.
Right.
I think it would be amazing.
Yeah, this is a terrific idea that we should sink a lot of money and effort into.
We should. We absolutely should. We've got like 8 months to get there, so we've got time to plan.
It's cool.
We've absolutely got time to plan. I was really excited to talk to you though, just because we honestly haven't had a massive conversation. And, you know, for the audience out there that is literally, in my opinion, been living under a rock for the last 40 years, I grew up watching you. I really did.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
I mean, like, from the moment I first became aware of you in Stand By Me, and then on Next Gen, my dad raised me on science fiction. And so to see a representation of someone similar in age on a show in a genre that I loved so much was really important to the trajectory of my life, I think, and me loving sci-fi. So thank you for that.
Dude, I never knew this. And like, it always means so much to me to hear from anyone who tells me, I grew up watching your show, and it's always, my mom loved it. My dad loved it. This was how I got introduced to science fiction. Or Wesley was a character I could relate to because there weren't any other kids in science fiction anywhere. And I've been thinking a lot, like this just comes up a lot lately, right? There was this misconception in the world that Wesley Crusher was this massively unpopular character, which is extraordinarily not true. He was beloved by the audience that was meant to see him.
Yes.
The people who didn't like him, and listen, he was not always well written. He was badly written more often than not in the first couple of years. And I completely understand that. I am not here to give an impassioned defense of Wesley Crusher. I just want to acknowledge that it means the world to me that this thing that I did so long ago was a really important part of so many lives. This is an opportunity for me to tell you that watching Battlestar Galactica the first time around during like the Bush years and all of the new Caprica storyline and all of that, I was just like, oh my God, this is science fiction the way that I want it to be. This is science fiction talking about what's going on now, and it's doing it in a way that is not beating me over the head with its message, but it's incredibly relatable and it's inspiring. And I love that. I love that we're in a little bit of a mutual admiration society. That's super cool.
We are. And we're also in really great company because I feel like anyone who gets to play themselves on The Big Bang Theory and like take the piss out of themselves, sort of like, you know that you're in this like the zeitgeist, you know, when like you are on Big Bang Theory. And granted, I only did it a couple times. You did it much more than I did, but I feel like the characters that we've played have meant so much to the space. So it's important.
On Big Bang Theory, we both really benefited from what Orson Welles described when he was talking about the third man, where he's like, this is the best character you can play. They spend the first two acts talking about you, and then you show up in the third act. You don't do anything, and everybody thinks that you're the greatest thing in the movie. Like, you had that in every single one of your episodes. Just like, here it comes, here it comes. And when they pulled the switcheroo with George was one of my favorite moments in the history of television. Just one of the funniest things that I've ever seen. It's fun. We're in this little. It's a fun little club of people who have played themselves. The guy who's kind of like the platonic ideal of that for me is James Van Der Beek. And I desperately, I was like, when I watched him playing himself and the way that he played himself, it just killed me. It was so funny. That's cool. It's like, it is such a gift to do work that I enjoy, that actually matters to the audience. It's like all I ever want. I just hope, I hope that some of the art I put out into the world like lands on people in a way that makes a difference. And you're right, being part of Big Bang Theory just gave all of us who were involved in it this incredible, rare opportunity to find an audience outside of our core. Like, we're always going to find the sci-fi audience, like, I'm a sci-fi fan. You're a sci-fi fan. We are so thirsty for science fiction. We're like, oh, whatever that is, great, let's go, right? But someone who's like kind of a normie, like, they maybe aren't like just clamoring for it the way we are.
Right.
So it's so cool when we get to go out into a little bit of the mainstream kind of like general audience and say, by the way, we exist and we do this other stuff. Come check it out.
Exactly. So you talk about like your love of doing what you do, and you have, while I was researching you, and I did not know this well. I mean, I feel like I'd heard about this, but I didn't know the extent of it when I was reading your blog, which has existed since 2001. Holy crap.
I know.
Right. Like, I mean, there are probably people listening that are probably like, oh my God, I wasn't born.
That happens to me a lot these days.
Does it?
I get a lot of, I was so into you when I was like 7. And I'm like, wait a minute, but you're like in it. Oh, math and time. Sure. Yeah. You were aging while I was. Yeah. Okay.
Got that.
Yeah.
So in researching you and finding out that like your mom sort of forced you into acting.
Didn't sort of, 100% forced me to be an actor. Yeah.
Was it, and she was an actress herself. So was she legitimately trying to like live vicariously through you?
I think so. My mom's family is really dysfunctional and weird, and there is way back in the ancestry, there's an actor who came to America from Ireland at the early part of the 20th century, and he was in a bunch of vaudeville stuff, and he was in the back. I think that he was like a background contract player at like maybe Universal or one of the big studios or something like that. And I was talking to my second cousin, who is a musician and a comedian named Julie Brown. She had a huge hit in the '80s. She had a song called "The Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun," which isn't funny like it once was. She wrote and started an incredibly hilarious movie called "Earth Girls Are Easy." And she's my second cousin.
Okay.
And we grew up kind of saw each other every now and then. And after I published my memoir and I talked in public about my father's abuse and my mother's enabling and protecting and my mother's exploitation of me, she reached out and was like, "Can we get together and have a conversation about the weird showbiz thing in the family?" And I was like, "I would love that." She's a little bit older than me, and she told me how there's this weird obsession in my mom's family where everybody's kind of, in her generation, was kind of trying to like live up to the idea of what that guy did or something. Like, I'm not entirely sure what it is, but my mom made me go on auditions when I was so young that I don't even remember how it started. It's just like kind of there, like we don't remember that time when we couldn't walk. We just know that like suddenly one day we could. And it was very much like that. She had done some commercials, a couple of commercials, and was like, not massively successful, but back in those days, you could do one or two commercials. You do a national network that they split into a couple of spots. You can buy a house. It's great, right? Like that was terrific. But like, I really think that I was pushed into all of this by her because she had just a tremendous void in herself, an enormous emptiness, and a real desire to be close to fame and be close to like capital H Hollywood.
Yeah.
And, I grew up in a house where my dad was cruel. He wasn't physically abusive all the time, which is a weird thing that I have to qualify, right? Like that's very binary. Like either you are or you aren't. But in in my generation and my parents' generation, it was like, oh, he only hit you once. Like, oh, okay, but like dad choked me all the time. But all right. She just wasn't getting any support from my dad, and didn't really know what to do with herself. And I think she just put it all into like kind of making me this thing. And I just so clearly remember being like, please let me be a kid. Please let me be a kid. I don't want to go on auditions. I don't like it. It's scary. I don't enjoy it. Directors yell at me and I don't like that. Like I can go home and get yelled at for free. I don't have to go to work to do that. And just never listened to me. It was ingrained in me. And I was so successfully manipulated by her. I was in my 40s before I actually said to myself one day, I don't think I like being an actor. And I don't think this is something I ever really wanted to do. And that was a really weird surprise.
Interesting. So when you look back on it with the perspective that you have now, are there aspects of it that you enjoyed?
Yeah, sure. My Star Trek cast is my family.
Yeah.
They are together they are my parents in the ways that matter. They didn't know what I was going through when I was working on the show. Anyone who is an abuse survivor will tell you that one of the things that we do better than anything is hide it and really, really hide it, even from ourselves sometimes. And they really showed up for me. And to this day, are there for me. When the podcast launched last week, I was like, I texted them and I texted the family and I was like, would you guys be my parents for a minute? I just, I need to tell somebody about this. And all of them were like, we're so proud of you. Congratulations. Yeah. I love that. I cherish that. And I am really grateful that the work that I did, like my mom forced me into doing the work, but I still did the work and I did good work. and I did good work that matters. And I'm super grateful for that. And I'm proud of myself. I've had people say to me, oh, you should be grateful to your parents for all that stuff. And I'm like, hang on, you're telling me I should be grateful that I was abused and exploited and terrorized because I built a career on top of the wreckage of that. I should be grateful for the wreckage. No, that's not how any of this works. Um, um, but I love the opportunities that I have had. And I think that in another life, had I been allowed to choose things for myself, there's a very good chance that I would have ended up being a theater kid anyway. I love theater kids. Even though being in front of a camera is not where I want to be, and there is a lot of trauma associated with acting for the camera for me, just because I remember stuff from being a kid. One of the reasons I have transitioned into voice acting and audiobook narrating in the second half of my life is that I get to do performance, right? I get to use all of the skills that I developed. And like, you know how fun it is when you're breaking down a scene and something pops out and you're like, oh my God, that's what this is. Or like a line pops up and you realize that the writer has given you just this gift, to just really slowly open up and treasure. I love that. I'm accessible to all of that stuff. And I love being on a set with people who are wonderful. When I was working on Eureka, we were on your old sets. I saw like your up on the walls, like layouts for like what you're like the CIC and all that stuff. Yeah. It's so cool to see all of that stuff. But that crew was amazing. And that like, and going to that set every day and Colin Ferguson was such a great number one on the call sheet on that show that the things that I really treasure out of all of this stuff and all of the acting that I did is that I made friends and I built relationships and I did really good art and I got to work with unbelievable actors who played with me and improvised with me and like treated me like, yeah, I'm just one of the gang, I super deserve to be there. There's all that stuff that's really, really wonderful. But if I could trade all of that for a happy, healthy childhood, parents who loved me, a dad who gives a shit about me, I would do that in a second. I would trade all of that. I'd give it all away. If it meant that I did not have this very deep well of sadness and pain that I think is probably going to be part of me for the rest of my life.
This episode is brought to you by OneSkin. Moms know the hustle is real. With work, kids, errands, and everything between, there's rarely time to slow down, let alone figure out a 10-step skincare routine. But no matter how busy your life gets, your skin still deserves more than just the basics. And that's why I love OneSkin and have been using their products for so long now. I use the body cream, which I absolutely love. I use the face cream and the eye cream every single day, twice a day. And I truly do love the products. My face is brighter, fine lines and wrinkles seem less, and the overall just shininess and plumpness of my skin seems to have improved. I continue to use this product and I really do stand behind it. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin with 15% off using code Sackhoff at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code Sackhoff, SACKHOFF. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. Give your skin the scientifically proven gentle care it deserves with OneSkin. This episode is brought to you by the DC Studios Showcase podcast. I had so much fun doing my episode of this podcast called Exploring Watchmen, an in-depth interview with myself, Katee Sackhoff, and Brandon Vietti, who is the director of Watchmen. It was so much fun. I loved sitting down with the host, nerd commentator Frankie Smith, entertainment journalist Tyler Coates, and comic correspondent Coy Jandreau. It was absolutely just wonderful. And anytime I get to sit down with Brandon Vietti is a dream come true. I hope I get to be directed by him again one of these days. It was really, really fun. The DC Studios Showcase podcast is your inside source for the latest and greatest from DC Studios. On each episode, the team breaks down the latest news, dissects the most recent DC Studios content, and speaks to the must-read DC comics. If you guys listen to this podcast, you know that my family is a huge DC fan. Our daughter is obsessed with DC. She always says to me, Mommy, it's not DC. If it's not DC, we don't want to watch it. Check out the podcast on the Max YouTube channel and listen to DC Studios Showcase on Max or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes come out every other Friday. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. That's DC Studios Showcase, wherever you get your podcasts. Do you think that the upbringing that you had at home and how you didn't feel supported and your dad was abusive, do you think that had a hand in you being such an overly, like you're such a kind, nice, protective person I
think so.
Advocate for vulnerable people, like the underrepresented youth. Like, I mean, you know, you're such an advocate. Do you think that led you to be the person you are?
Thank you for seeing me. Like, thank you for really, for seeing that. That's really important to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was in a class once, marketing class for actors. Wonderful casting director named Sam Christensen. His biggest casting thing was MASH. So this guy like really knows from actors, and he loved actors. He's no longer with us. But Sam was an amazing teacher. And we went through all this stuff about marketing ourselves and how we looked for like kind of what our essences were and what makes me and a person who looks exactly like me right or wrong for a role, because there's something between the two of us. We can both do the role, but there's something where in one of us, it's real. And that's an intangible. Sam was teaching us how we could identify those things in ourselves and then play to those strengths and market to those strengths. Toward the end of the course, he said, I want to give you all something that I hope will be useful to you for the rest of your lives. And he talked a little bit about how actors like tend to be people who seek approval. We tend to seek the applause of the audience. We want people to look at us and go, "Oh, I'm glad I looked at you." Right? Like we just that's just part of it, right? Like I am at this moment, I'm in a really interesting moment where I put this thing into the world that I'm insanely proud of, that I love, that I had such a good time working on. And the feedback on it, what little I've gotten, is really great. But that moment of walking out from behind the curtain to see the entire audience assembled so I can look out and go, what did you think? I don't get that moment with this at all, right? And I understand actors just being like, I just need somebody to tell me that it was okay. He said, when you are not acting, you need to have a purpose in your life that is greater than you as an actor. Your purpose cannot be, I got to make movies, I got to do good stories, I got to do stuff like that, right? It has to be something bigger. And it has to be something that you can never complete. He said, the big secret is make this a task that you cannot complete. And he said, here's an example. Janis Joplin apocryphally said to someone, I want to be the number one star musician in the world. I want to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. That's what I want in my life. And she got that and died shortly thereafter. And the message from Sam was, maybe she felt like she had lost a little bit of purpose because she had gotten there. I don't know. It's just, it's I'm sure it's more complicated than that. So he said, I want you to find something that is your purpose. Go and live your life on purpose. When you're a kid and you get in trouble and the teacher's like, you did that on purpose. And he said, so I want you to do these things on purpose. Think about what your purpose is and try to distill it to a simple phrase. And he said, my purpose is I distill fear, which is what he did for actors. It was great. And I was like, oh my God, I get that. So I spent years working on it. What am I going to do? What's my purpose in life? Because it's absolutely, even then, when I was trying to like really, give myself all the opportunities to be a big, successful actor, even then I kind of knew, I don't know if this is a thing. My purpose is to be the person I wish there was more of in the world. I'm
Amen.
doing my best to be the person I need in the world. And to more specifically answer your question, yeah, I grew up in a house where I was never safe. I grew up in a house where I held my breath to listen for what the footsteps sounded like because it gave me a sense of which dad was coming down the stairs, the one who yells at me or the one who ignores me. Like, and then I could prepare and adjust, right? What I need is a person in this world who's kind and patient, who chooses to do the right, good thing, whether or not it's hard. I need a person who will stand up when someone's getting bullied and say, that's not okay. All of that is because that's the person I've always needed in my life. And that person was never there for me. So when I am being that person for myself, making an effort to be the person that I need in the world, I can occasionally be that for someone else. Like I just sort of passively, like it just sort of happens. So it's a long way of saying, yeah, the way that I was raised and the things that I experienced, I was the bullied kid at school. You know, there was me and two other kids. We were the targets. And that's not okay. And if I can spend a meaningful part of my life working to change that, change those expectations and change what our tolerance level for that stuff is, I'm absolutely going to do it. But thank you for seeing me. I mean, that's important to me. And when I have the privilege of speaking to high school kids, and I have the privilege of them actually listening to me and like giving me any kind of credibility, which is like so hard to do, you know, I will always tell them, listen, if you take nothing else away from this, I just want you to think about this. You have opportunities in your life over and over and over again, many times during a day, to be nice or to be kind. Now, here's the thing. Nice comes from here. Kind comes from here. Kind just goes on all the time. It never turns off. Nice turns off and on. Kind, like you be patient up here while you're being kind down here.
Yeah.
And it's the coolest thing, Katee. I watch kids go,
yeah.
like that, and they realize the difference between the two things. And I just think, okay, cool. I just put another person into the world who's going to carry that forward.
You know, what's funny about that is that somebody asked me when the moment I knew that I was going to marry my husband was.
Yeah.
And I said, I knew it very early on in knowing him, that I wanted him to be in my life forever. Because I had dated really nice guys. My whole life, I dated nice guys. You could say a million nice things about them. Yeah. I've never met somebody who was inherently kind. And the moment I realized that at his core, he was kind, and I knew it was different. Yeah. And I was like, I'm never letting him go.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's different. He wakes up in the morning and he just is who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife and I have been together for 30 years. We've been married for 25. This year will be 26 years. And she's just absolutely my best friend and my absolute favorite person in the world. And one of her friends identified once that she and I are like, we're married, we're husband and wife, we're a mom and dad. Like, you know, we have all of that together. But there's also this big part of us where we're just buddies who hang out and do fun things together. And we just ended up this weekend. We had a really fun weekend. We did all kinds of stuff together. We went out. We went out to a movie. We went to a Dodger game. We went to a Kings game. We saw our friends, and we were like, we were like wrecked at the end of the day.
It's exhausting.
You know? By the end of the weekend, we were so exhausted, and we're like in bed. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. Everything hurts, and I'm so tired. And I'm so glad that we did this. This is great. Let's do it all again. Let's go to sleep and do it all again tomorrow. Yeah, it's really.
Did you guys lose that at a time when? So when you guys got married, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel her children are biologically her children and you
Correct.
are. So how old were the children when you guys met and got married?
Ryan was 6 and Nolan was 4.
Okay.
When we got married when they were 10 and 8, I think.
Okay.
I didn't do the diapers part of them being kids, but I did everything else. And being a stepdad was really hard. It is so hard to love two kids while respecting that they have a relationship with another person who I know is a shit, but they don't know it yet. And it was so challenging for me to let him show them who he is. Because a big part of being a loving parent is like protecting your kids from stuff like that, you know? And I had to be very careful that I did not cause them additional like psychic pain through my own stuff. It was a lot of work. And I always told them, I love you and I love you no matter what. And I love you because you exist. And that's never changing. And I'm always going to be here. And I'm always going to be a person that you can rely on. And I will be who you need me to be. You guys are my kids in every way that matters, right? When they were in high school, they just didn't have my name, whatever. So what? They were still my kids.
Yeah.
They have my humor. They have my values. I raised them. So when Ryan was 18, he came home at the end of his first semester of college. And we were laying on the floor in the living room. I had one of those little laser star projectors just pointing up at the ceiling, you know, and I was like, dude, look at this. It's so cool. So we're just laying there looking at it and we're just talking about stuff. And Ryan said, I wanted to ask you something. I'm like, okay. And he said, well, I've been thinking, as long as you've known Mom and as long as you've been in my life, you're more of a dad to me than my dad. And I was hoping that we could make that official and you would adopt me. And like, when I stopped weeping, I was like, of course, I would.
I'm like crying right now. Like as a mom.
I was like,
yes.
Right. And I was like, of course. And we're just laying there, little faint green stars on the ceiling. I'll never forget it. A few months later, Nolan waited until Nolan turned 18. So they didn't have to go get permission from the other guy. And we were at Comic-Con. And we were having lunch at Comic-Con. And Nolan, this is just who he is. No, Ryan is an artist like I am. Ryan is a writer and a wordsmith and like just, you know, he's got a lot going on. Nolan, much more direct, doesn't like really have time for that. So Nolan leans over and he says, I've been thinking that it's time for you to adopt me. And I was like, what? Here? Now? And he was like, yeah, I just been thinking about it a lot. And I was hoping that when we get home, we could do that. And I was like, absolutely. So we did it. It was really fun. They didn't do this for Ryan, but they did it for Nolan. When we went to the family court to do all of this, my godmother came and some of our very, very close friends who are like our family came. And we went through all of the adoption stuff. And when they adopt kids, when little kids are adopted by their parents, they always get to take a teddy bear out of this courtroom, and they let Nolan get a teddy bear out of the courtroom, which he still has. And I love that my 31-year-old boy carries around, he still has it. It's in his bedroom, the teddy bear that he got when I adopted him. I just think it's really great.
It is.
Being a dad is an incredibly rewarding, wonderful part of my life. And I'm really grateful that my boys like just took a chance on me and like let me be their dad. You know, I could have been their mom's husband forever. That wasn't going to change, but they let me be their dad. And that was a really special gift.
It's beautiful. So this is a nice, beautiful segue because we're talking a lot about the past, and I want to talk about It's Storytime with Wil Wheaton. You're so good, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
So I want to know why, and I might be pronouncing her last name wrong, but why is Rock, Paper, Scissors, Love, Death by Carolyn M. Yochum?
Yochum.
Yoakum, thank you.
Yeah.
Why was that the first choice?
That is a great question. I don't have a great answer to it. I wish that I had a deeply thoughtful, we went through an incredibly long process and figured out. I asked Gabrielle DeCure, who is my director, producing partner, what do you think? Like, let's feel this out. Let's feel the order. We know all the stories, right? They're all speculative fiction. Some of them are, one of them is hilarious and I love it. Some of them are intense and emotional. The one that came out today landed on me it's called Proof by Induction by Jose Pablo Iriarte. And it landed on me in a very specific way, really relevant to what we've been talking about. And it landed on me so intensely. I thought, I don't know if I can get through this without breaking down. And also, I must get through this without breaking down. I must tell this story.
Right.
So I just wanted to lead off with a story that was compelling, that held you from the very beginning, and that when it was over, you didn't realize that 40-ish minutes are behind you now, right? I wanted a story with a good, strong narrative character, and I wanted a story that allowed me to work to bring it to life the way I bring things to life when I narrate them. We both felt, Gabrielle and I both felt, yeah, rock, paper, scissors, love, death is the one to start with. I couldn't tell you precisely why. It's just one of those things. You know, when you're doing a scene and the director gives an odd bit of direction that doesn't particularly make sense, but somehow the artist part of you goes, I got this. And you do the take and it works and you still can't say why. It's kind of like that. I felt that this was a story that was going to be a very good representation of what you can expect from me, at least in our first season, and hopefully if we find our audience for future seasons. And I just found out yesterday, I'm so excited and I'm so happy for her. Caroline is nominated for a Nebula this year for a different short story that Stefan Rudnicki, who is one of the guys that works at Skyboat, who I've worked with forever, narrated. So I sort of feel like, oh, that's cool. The guy down the hall, he's got a thing. You know, it's like I'm in this studio at Abbey Road recording Dark Side of the Moon, and they're at this studio at Abbey Road recording Abbey Road. Like, oh, this is great.
Well, I mean, it's clear to me that, and I love this about you because it's so similar with me. I grew up obsessed with Reading Rainbow and LeVar Burton.
Right?
LeVar and his team sent me a few years ago an entire box of all of the DVDs of Reading Rainbow. I loved it. I loved it. What is it about stories and about reading that it's such a huge part of who you are as a human being? I can tell that it's in your fibers.
Talked about it a little bit in the first episode of the podcast, that I can't remember a time in my life when I couldn't read. My grandmother taught me how to read so early that I have one memory of looking up at a billboard by my house and seeing shapes and not knowing what the letters were. It's the only thing I remember not being able to read. It's just kind of part of my life, like eating. It's just a thing that I do. As I grew up, I was a target. I was bullied. I wasn't cool. I wasn't athletic. I was awkward and weird, and books were a safe place for me to be. I could sit in a book and nobody would come and talk to me because I'm reading a book. They just leave me alone. I could use my imagination to be where those characters were. When I read Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing and then Super Fudge and then all the Ramona Quimby books, I felt like I knew these kids. I felt like I didn't understand that these had been written in the 60s and that this was, I was like, oh, I know these kids. Like, I am a fourth grade nothing. I absolutely understand all of this. And I just loved it. I loved how someone looks at a book and just sees like a thing, sees paper with words on it. But I see a portal and a ticket to admission to wherever I want to go. And that's magical. As I continued to grow up and became aware of adults trying to ban books and trying to stop people from reading, I was like, if they don't want me to do this, it must be the best thing ever. If they don't want me to read, if these people who I think are stupid don't want me to read To Kill a Mockingbird or The Diary of Anne Frank, guess what I'm reading next? Because there's something great in there that they don't want me to know. I was like 9 or 10 when I started figuring that out. Little revolutionary Will, just like, yes, I'm reading Das Kapital. I mean, it was just like, it was just like, it was really important to me. And after Stand By Me, I had already been someone who liked to write short stories, just things, whatever, they weren't great, but I did it. After Stand By Me, when I played the writer in Stand By Me, every interview I did was like, are you a writer like Gordy? And the thing is, I was a writer, but not like Gordy, right? I had never thought that I would write books or even long stories. I just write short things that I would show my friends or whatever. I did really like it. And I couldn't explain why until like I was in my early 30s, I guess. And I read Stephen King's book on writing, where he described a book as a time machine, and he described a book as a time capsule, and he described a book as me giving you a place and a time and a bunch of emotions and all of this stuff. I put it here and it sits there and it exists forever. And it becomes real when you open the book and go into it. That's magic to me.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with that, and it never really left. And I always thought if I had the privilege of narrating audiobooks regularly, like that could be my job, I would be so happy.
Yeah.
I would be so happy. And it kind of looks like we're headed in that direction.
It's true. My husband is a ferocious reader, as is our I see it in our daughter.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, she sits down, she's 3, and she sits down with books that are like for fourth graders.
Yeah.
And she follows the words with her finger. And she'll do this for way too long for a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing, baby? And she's like, I'm reading, Mama. And I'm like, okay. She's not, but she is seeing sight words.
Yeah.
She does see it. And she, in her mind, is creating a story because she knows what the cover looks like.
Yeah.
And in the books that she's reading, they're chapter books, but there's every like 3rd page, there's a picture. And she'll look at that picture and she'll stare at it for a very long time. And then she'll flip the page and go to the words and she'll start scanning the words again. She's using her imagination to tell the story. And it's such a beautiful thing to see, because I know she's going to turn into my husband, who, like you, just like can't put books down. It's such a huge part of his life. I am curious, because this story about that Caroline created about time travel was so beautifully, thoughtfully told in 40 minutes, which is not easy to do in time travel. It's a really complicated thing to write a story that is touching and profound, and not confusing and jumpy.
It's easy to get caught up in the fun of the big idea and lose the character. Yeah. It's one of the reasons I love the story so much. There is so much going on there.
So much going on, but it doesn't lose you. And part of it is the way that you read it, by the way. The way you read stories it takes the listener along. And this story about time travel got me thinking, especially with a lot of us talking about your past and things. Do you ever think about if you could go back in time and change something or observe something? Would you
I think
in
about
your
this all.
life?
I think about this all the time. So, I am fundamentally a skeptic. I am fundamentally a scientist, and if you can't test it in a lab, double-blinded and peer review it, that's cool, but it's not real, right? As I define it. That said, there is just so much about existence we are unable to understand because we're limited to what we can perceive. I am absolutely confident that there is something we can't see, we can't feel, that may be so close to us that it's just on the other side of this thin membrane of perception. And in that reality, moving, using time as that fourth dimension, and there's this difficult way to sort of challenging way to visualize it, visualizing time as a cube, and we're moving through slices of time, and it's very complicated, and it's cool and it's fun, but it's a lot. If we accept that with every choice we make, the opportunity for that line that's moving through slices of time to go one way or another, it actually goes in all of those directions, and we just stay on one of them. There's a reality out there where I have a very different life, a very different life, because one of these moments, one of these terrible moments, didn't happen for me. The thing about that is that I love my life. I really love my life. I am so, so grateful for the life that I have, for the life that Anne and I have built together, that I don't want it to be different. I don't want to be in a reality where something changed that spared me some of the unspeakable pain I carry. But it means that Anne is a person I never meet. I can't even imagine that. And in a less personal sense, there's this great story about somebody. There's a really funny story that's written as a Wikipedia article of people who keep going back in time and killing Hitler. And then someone has to go back and set the timeline right, and it's the log of them reverting the timeline and what happens and what went wrong and what, how it messed things up. And one of them is great, you killed baby Hitler, so now baby Schlimmel grows up to be Hitler because it's still in the world, it's just a different person, right? So what I kind of took out of that is that we do have the opportunity to travel in time. We do have the opportunity to change things. The way that I do that is I recognize moments where, you ever try to carry too much stuff out of the dishwasher and you start to slip and you barely catch it and you don't shatter it on the ground? To me, that is the moment where, had it shattered on the ground, I would have been like, God, if I have a chance to do this over again, I would not have carried all the things, right? Yeah. So okay, cool, I just caught it. So that was my second chance. That was my second chance. That was the moment where I'm like, oh, okay. In some other reality, I'm cleaning up broken dishes right now. You're cleaning up
broken glass. You might have stepped on it.
But yeah, right. But now I'm not. So I think that we have this tendency as humans, and as kind of at the top of our intellectual food chain on our planet, we have this tendency to put ourselves at the top of absolutely everything. And I think it's important to continue to imagine that maybe we're in the middle of something, right? The way that there's this great story of koi fish in a pond, and they're scientists, and they're having a conversation about their entire reality, and someone walks by the pond and picks a fish up out of the pond and is like, yo, fish, check this out, and shows them the world and then puts them back in. And the fish goes, okay, I don't know what the hell just happened. You guys are never going to believe this. And the other scientists are like, you literally disappeared and then you came back. What is going on? Well, the fish scientists do not have the language to describe what happened because even though they're scientists, they've never experienced that other thing. If we believe that the universe is infinite, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it would stand to reason just mathematically that whatever we can think of exists somewhere. That's like, there's room for that in infinity. So in some place, we're the fish scientists. And there probably is some reality where we can go back and change things and do things differently. But just as the characters in this story are very careful about what they tell different versions of themselves, and they're just like, look, like, I know that I'm here because you did this right, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to tell you what I remember about doing it when I was you, all of that stuff. We can have conversations with our younger selves just like that in our imaginations. I do that in my therapy when my younger self is hurting and crying out and experiencing pain or fear. I can, through a series of like cognitive tricks, sort of show up for myself, kind of be there in conversation with my younger self, be the parent I always wished that I had. I've had these moments where I'm like kind of just sitting here talking to my younger self, and I'm like, and I will say something, and it feels silly to say this, but I will say to out loud, buddy, I'm so sorry that you experienced that thing. My dad was an asshole too, even though I'm talking about the same thing, but it's the way that I would talk to somebody that I love. I think it's really important that the voice we use with ourselves, the way that we talk to ourselves and treat ourselves, is the same voice and the same attitude that we give to the person we love the most in the world. I was upset with myself one day and I was like, gosh, you fucking idiot. And Anne says, I really don't like it when you talk to yourself like that because you wouldn't let anybody talk to me that way. Why do you talk to you that way? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to not do that.
Yeah. I started doing that with our daughter. Like, I talk about I grew up with a mother and a father, God love them, who are obsessed with diet, obsessed with thinness, obsessed with,
oh no.
It was always in my it was always in my life.
Yeah.
I then entered an industry that it was also obsessed with it. So all it did was validate all of the negativity and the voices in my head. And it took me years to get to a place where I was healthier in my self-talk.
Yeah.
And
good for you, by the way. That's hard to do.
Thank you. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But I am bound and determined to not pass that to my child. Like, I don't want it to be a cyclical thing. And so the self-talk with her, when she's in front of the mirror or she's, looking at her body, is, look at that beautiful body. Look at those strong legs. Look at those, those arms that are so strong and they're protective, and they're, and those hands that are so artistic, and all of these things that I try to say to her just to, raise a little girl. But if she doesn't see me treat myself the same way, none of what I say matters.
Yeah. A really important thing that everyone needs to know, every person, you are absolutely enough. You're not too much. You're not enough. Like, you're great. You are exactly what you need to be in the world. And we all have moments where we're extra, and that can be fun, and that can be a burden, and it can be embarrassing. It is living, I spent so much of my life feeling like I was wrong. Like there was just something fundamentally wrong with me. And I was never going to be able to fix whatever that thing was. And ultimately I had to figure out that actually there is absolutely nothing wrong with me. I'm great exactly the way that I am. And all of these things that I felt were areas where I was falling short, they really just reflected the inability of the people I was hoping to reach to be available to me. It wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. And like someone listening to this or watching this has that feeling that I am not enough, or I need to do more, or I'm just such a pain in the ass, or they're all tired of me. And like, don't talk to yourself like that, man. Like, you're absolutely enough.
Yeah. And you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? That something you said earlier that really resonated is that I've thought about this time travel thing as well at times, like if I could go back and change anything that's happened in my life. I worked really hard to like myself, and I really love my life.
Yeah.
I've worked hard to build the life that I have with my partner, and it is a life filled with love and joy. But you have to take the good with the bad. Life is not about just the good moments.
Yeah.
It's about all of it.
Yeah.
It's all part of your life that is absolutely unique to you. No one else has the exact same pieces that fit together. And every single person is beautifully special and unique because of that. And it's such a gift.
I see a lot of kids in my nephew's generation. He's 13. There's some really interesting awareness among, like, with him and his peer group, of the value of kindness and the value of really seeing people and accepting that everybody's doing the best that they can, and their best changes from moment to moment and from day to day. There's always going to be shitty people in the world. That's just how it is. But we can choose whether we're going to be one of them. And that includes how we talk to ourselves and how we deal with ourselves.
Beautiful. How many episodes this season of It's Storytime with Wil Wheaton?
I think it's 8.
Only 8? I'm so
8.
sad.
Well, listen, we will. Okay,
I know how much work it is. I know how much work it is.
Thank
Trust
you for
me.
that. So, a couple of things. I really believe in this. I probably should have told your audience an hour ago. It's Storytime with Wil Wheaton is a new weekly podcast that I have. New episodes come out every Wednesday, where I narrate a short work of fiction for you, pulled from the speculative fiction world. My editors are Lynn and Michael Thomas, for the editors of Uncanny Magazine, a magnificent speculative fiction magazine. They went out and they found for me stories written by incredible writers that came from Clarkesworld, Lightspeed, Uncanny, OnSpec, all kinds of different places. Just really great. We have a story that was originally published in Slate. Just really wonderful, great works from people. And my goal with this podcast is to find an audience that allows the show to become self-sustaining, right? A large enough audience that we can sell advertising, and that we can do this hybrid of advertising and Patreon, and it's paying for itself, and I get to keep going. And if it works, next season and in the future, in addition to really outstanding work from authors that you may know if you're a big sci-fi spec fic fan, but like your average person who likes magical realism but doesn't know that's what it's called, doesn't know about any of these authors, they're going to find them. I'm really excited about that. In amongst that, I hope to break new authors. I hope to be a place where someone who's come out of Clarion or grad school or high school or whatever, just some great, beautiful writer who's written an amazing story is looking for their break. If I can use the privilege I have as an audiobook narrator, people have told me, oh, I just go and look for your name and then I get whatever you narrated. Oh man. So that's a huge privilege and also a terrifying responsibility. So I'm like, great, what I can do with that, if I can use that, I can give that voice to someone who's brand new and help give them a break, because nobody gets anything done on their own, right? No. Everybody has help. If I can do that, it would be a dream come true for me. So that's what we're doing with this. To accomplish that, I paid for the first season. I paid everybody. I paid all of my authors a little bit more than what the going rate is because I knew they were taking a chance on me. I didn't. I worked for free, but I didn't get anybody else to work for free. And if we have an audience that says, cool, we can keep this going and I don't have to pay for it, so it's not just a vanity project.
Yeah.
Then I hope to do like seasons that are roughly, I don't know, in the 10 episode each kind of thing, but that they'll keep rolling out constantly throughout the year.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, I'll do 40 episodes a year, maybe more, maybe a couple of special ones for the Patreon. And then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah.
And it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun and it feels so good. When I'm in the booth, and I get to the end of a thing and I stop and I go glance into the glass and I'll see Gabrielle on the other side and we're both doing the same, like, wow, that kind of fun moment. That moment when we're going to try to do the master. We're doing the master as a oneer. We hope it plays as a oneer. We're going to shoot coverage anyway, but we really want it to work as a oneer. And you go through it and it works as a oneer and you're like, ah, yes, but you got to do coverage anyway.
Yeah.
I got to do coverage.
Yeah.
Right. Like we haven't gotten to the end of this day yet. We're still in the first, like the beginning of this, of the work day on this.
Yeah.
But I'll know in 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, I wish you all the success. I know how hard it is to find an audience and then continue to give that audience what they want. It is hard, but they are out there and they're constantly looking for new things. So I hope that everybody finds it's Storytime with Wil Wheaton because I'm a fan. So I will tell everybody about it. Yeah, it's very good.
It means a lot to me that you gave me your time. I understand, time is so valuable. There's all these things that we want to do, especially when we're parents. There's all these things that we want to do. And we can only choose there's only so much time in a day, right? Yeah. Time you spend with me is time you're not doing another thing. That's a gift. And I'm just really grateful for it. So thank you. Thank you for letting me entertain you. I did not expect that at all. That's really wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Well, I appreciate your candor and your talent because you've been a part of my life for a very long time. So this has been really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate it. I'm supposed to tell everybody, I am at wilwheaton.net.
There you go.
I'm on Blue Sky at wilwheaton.net.
Okay.
And the podcast lives at wilwheaton.net/podcast. The Patreon is patreon.com/storytime. And you can get the podcast everywhere your podcasts show up. If you're an old school nerd like me and you want to just grab the RSS directly, there is a link for that on my website at wilwheaton.net. If you know what that means, you know how to find it. So thank you. Thank you, Katee.
Absolutely.
It's so cool. It's wonderful to talk with you. I would really like to do this in person at a place. Maybe at Seth MacFarlane's Christmas party.
Which is not associated with Seth MacFarlane.
Which is not associated with Seth MacFarlane's Christmas party at all. It's just you and me having breakfast.
Oh my God. We're going to have breakfast at some point and post it at Christmas and be like,
it's gonna be
I don't know
fun.
about you guys, but we were at Seth MacFarlane's Christmas party.
I'm going to write this down so it comes up in my notes. It's like, you were talking about this back in April. Do you want to do this? So it'll come up in
I know. So we'll text November. Each other and be like, do you want to do this?
Remember when we were talking about this?
It'll be a really fun post.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Hindsight. Thank you much. Let me drink some of that coffee really quick.
It's an early one today.
Thank you so much for sticking around for The Hindsight. We love to have you here. As always, I'm joined by my co-host and producer, who I forced to be here, Jeff Border. Hi.
You doing okay?
I am. It's been a rough week. My daughter is literally in the other room listening to her Yodo player and singing Disney music at the top of her lungs. You don't know what a Yodo is, Jeff, because you don't have children.
I don't know what a Yodo
So
is.
something that I got for her during her cancer treatment was this thing called a Yodo player.
Mm-hmm.
It is basically like a little radio for kids. They have a travel size version and a larger version that you sort of leave in the bedroom or at the house. The travel version is chargeable, and they have little cards, and the cards slide in the top, and it plays music. It plays stories. So this is where Wil Wheaton comes into play.
Okay.
It plays narrated books for children. And what's wonderful about the Yodo, we are not sponsored, you guys. I found this thing. I researched all of these players. There are a lot of them. There's one called the Tony that comes with these little figures. What I loved about the Yodo was the cards are easy to travel with because we travel so much.
Mm-hmm.
But the books start at like age 0, basically. And there are books like the Harry Potter series.
Oh, wow.
There are huge narrated books. What else is so beautiful about it is they have blank cards that you can read the story for your child and record it to one of the cards, or you can sing a song to them, or for someone who travels a lot or for grandparents. This is a phenomenal piece of equipment, you guys. And one of the main reasons I love it is our daughter, like many people's children, are obsessed with phones.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be
Me
obsessed with
too.
a phone. Our
Me
son
too.
is 10 months old. He can't even fucking crawl because he's so big, but he wants to control the phone
Yeah.
because they see us using them. Our daughter only really she likes to play the games on the phone. She doesn't get that, but we started letting her listen to music on our phones because she loves music. We then take the phone away. There's no videos with this music. It's just music. But if we take the phone away, she has a meltdown. I mean,
man.
screaming, hitting, like meltdown just from the phone. But when
That's a
we
bad
have the
sign.
Yodo, that is a bad sign. So we had a very adult conversation with her the other day where she is no longer allowed to use the phone. She's lost privileges for an entire week, which she doesn't even realize what that really is. But she knows she's lost privileges. We marked it on her calendar. But she can listen to her Yodo all she wants.
Okay.
So she's in the other room singing at the top of her lungs by herself with her Yodo player. She's 3 years old, and she's going between books on tape, like narrated books, and her music, and she's going back and forth. Anyway.
So if you can record your own, should you record some of Will's stories onto one for her?
Oh my God, I bet you. We'll need. I want to figure out how to narrate like children's storybooks because like I'm like a shoo-in for this shit.
I mean,
I do the voices. Like I've got a radio voice. Like I'm really good for this.
Well, here I'm going to put this out there. Why don't there's a spinoff here, and I'm going to just put it into the ether here. We're talking about doing a Patreon. What if we did Katee reads a story? And we just have you reading a children's story or any story like Will's idea here. Let's just rip off Wil Wheaton and do it on the Patreon.
He ripped off LeVar Burton. And I
True.
mean this with all the love in the world, you guys. He didn't rip off LeVar. Anyone who is our age, Jeff, knew what Reading Rainbow was when we were kids.
Of course. I mean, LeVar Burton is and Will to a degree too are so central to my childhood because I would watch LeVar Burton on Reading Rainbow on PBS, and then I would go watch Star Trek.
Look. It's in a book.
It's Reading Rainbow.
Yeah.
By the way, have you ever heard the techno remix of it? I'll look it up and send it to you.
Please look it up.
It's awesome. But watching LeVar on Reading Rainbow and then watching LeVar on Star Trek, I was aware that they were the same person, and I was just like, my entire life is wrapped up in LeVar Burton.
And like Kunta Kinte?
And I never watched Roots at that age.
Yeah, I didn't watch it at that age either. But my mom used to always be like, it's Kunta Kinte. And I was like, what is she talking about? I'm dying to get him on this podcast. He just passed on it. So I'll make sure that
we're going to get him.
I'll make sure that he knows that he passed. He might not know he passed.
But this goes to kind of back to Will. He mentions in this episode how there's this sort of idea, and I think this was true. There's this idea that Wesley Crusher was a bad character and he was unpopular and stuff like that, which I only really heard about recently because in my memory, I was like 8, 9, 10 when Star Trek was on.
You wanted to be him?
I wanted to be Wesley Crusher.
Me too.
living on a starship, like the coolest thing ever.
Me too. And what he realizes is that it was like that character was not made for everyone. That character was made for us.
Exactly.
So we, the younger generation that was watching Next Gen with our parents, saw ourselves represented, which we never saw in Star Trek. Battlestar Galactica had one child on the show. Yeah. We had him on like one episode. And we were like, well, we don't like that character around because you can't do shit with them because like they're a child. So like, you know, but like it is, that character is for us. And it breaks my heart that people are so critical of that character.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows you the two sides of the fandom. You know, I think especially at that time when this was the series that was following up the original series that was so beloved and had been off the air for so long. And this is before Star Trek is what Star Trek as we know it is now. And then they bring this into what is this beloved series for people who watched it in the 60s when they were kids. And now they're going to shit talk them trying to make it accessible to a new generation. It's literally called The Next Generation.
Well, but that's what everyone does.
Exactly.
They shit on the new thing because it's not exactly what their fondness was of the old thing.
I mean, Battlestar is the exact same thing with that.
Perfect example of that. It's such a strange thing to me, and we don't need to get into it too much, but because it really does break my heart. So there are not many artists in the world that have to stand in front of a jury, i.e. the internet, and be just ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
Most artists put their art out into the world, and we know it's subjective. I'm very aware there are probably people out there that are like, Picasso was a hack. You know, like it's fine.
Oh, yes, there are.
You know, but like not many people go online and talk shit about somebody's art to such an extent that they do people in entertainment. And it's really hard. I don't think people realize how human actors and musicians and entertainers are. Athletes as well. Athletes get this as well. Like, you can criticize my work. That's fine. But like the moment you start to like rip on me as a person and rip apart the way that I look and who I am, and wish harm on me because you didn't like something that I did or something that I said, or it's weird, man.
Yeah, or say that you somehow deserve it because you chose this career.
Yeah.
It's
like
really
it literally breaks my heart. And I have a thick skin.
Yeah.
You know, I've been doing this a long time. Yeah. I know that what you think about me doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. I mean, that was sort of something that I was picking up on with Wil. Like he had, and I've heard elements of his story before. He had such a traumatic upbringing.
Yeah.
And it's so just like inspiring to me that he was put on the world stage while he was suffering through such horrific abuse, and he has still found a way to be such a positive person. And there's a part of me that bristles at over positivity sometimes because I'm a bit of a cynic. But with him, it's just so like, you know what? This guy survived, and it's inspiring, and it's incredible that he has turned into. And I think that's to the other side of the fan community. Is this very supportive place where people embrace people. And I think, you know, he's done a lot of stuff in the nerd geek community, like with his Dungeons and Dragons stuff and being on the Big Bang Theory. He's like a beloved figure that it's like this weird double-edged sword where like he was sort of forced into this world. But, you know, I mean, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I feel like it's sort of like supported him as well.
Of course, because there are two very, very vocal sides of the extreme in fandom. The fans that love you and adore you and are very supportive of the things that you do, and then the people who are not fans, or maybe they even are in this weird sycophant way where they decide to rip you apart because it makes them feel better about their lives. But this is sort of one of the things that we've sort of talked about on this show a little bit, that Will seems to really have is that to live life to its fullest and to appreciate life to its fullest, you have to accept all aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And he does.
Yeah.
That is he would not be the person he is today had he not lived through and experienced every single thing that he did in his past.
Sometimes I write down a quote from these that really sticks with me. And the one that Will said, and this one was, "There's always going to be shitty people in the world. We just get to choose if we're going to be one of them." Which is, to me, I'm like, Jesus, that's so important. It's so important.
Put that on a coffee mug.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's literally like, that is
really
the thing.
Important.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel like, well, that's just how the world is.
What if he made that up?
I don't know.
Or if you heard that before?
I don't know.
Because that's really amazing. Yeah. But it's very similar to certain things. We say this to our 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to choose today?
Yeah.
Because she's in a whiny phase. She's 3. She's like a fucking 3-nager. Are you going to choose to have a good time today? Are you going to choose to be open to excitement and new experiences? Or do you want to whine and cry and go home?
Yeah.
Like you can choose that. Like people, you can make a choice every single day, no matter what's going on in your life, how you're going to handle it.
Yeah.
Like maybe not, you might not have the ability to change it right now, but how are you going to handle it? And that's very similar to what he's saying.
It reminds me of another quote. I don't know, quote is the wrong word. It's more of a just a saying, because I don't think it's from anybody, but it's about mental health. The saying is, your mental health is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Amen. Absolutely. Oh my God. Can we talk about one of the comments on the YouTube channel?
Sure.
Should we just get into the mail sack so we can talk about this shit?
Here we go.
Mail sack. We're going to the mail sack. Mail sack. Why are we calling it mail sack?
Okay. This comment, because I just turned 45. I believe that this comment right here, not to fuck on you, Curtis B. me.
Yes, we're not going to fuck on you.
We're not going to fuck on you. This comment spiraled me into a panic attack. This was 8 days ago that I got this, which also coincided with my birthday and turning 45. But it also, the stress of life. Are you ready for this one?
Oh my God, yes.
As coworker told me, you don't feel turning 40, but you do turning 50. He was very right. 40 felt like not your prime, but no biggie. But by 50, your body has found numerous ways to let you know the countdown has started.
I remember that comment, and
Jeff, I literally have tears in my eyes right now. That really fucked me up.
Well, let's move past it, because
really fucked me up, because that's not how I feel.
Yeah.
But you made me feel that way.
Yeah. It feels like it came from an innocent place. I was afraid you were going to have a comment that was like really shitty.
No, man. I feel great.
Yeah.
I feel fucking great.
You're not 50, Katee.
No, but 40 doesn't also feel like not my prime. I feel very much in my prime.
Yeah.
And because I also choose to feel that way, I choose to look at all of the things that are still in front of me that I'm so excited about. But that comment broke my heart.
Oh.
It broke my heart. And then on Twitter, I blocked them. They also didn't at me, but like for some reason I saw it.
Yeah.
I think it's because I also I searched the YouTube channel on Twitter to sort of see what people are saying. This person said, I hope people are okay with the fact that Katee Sackhoff is going to die soon.
Jesus. What?
Those two comments came back to back. And then the next day I got on a plane, Jeff, and flew to LA, where I'm already scared of flying. This was literally what was happening to me.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I feel like maybe don't read the comments anymore.
But this is the shit that I'm talking about that, granted, poor Richard B. had no idea that was going to set me off. But you know,
not
the
your
things
fault,
that people
Richard.
say, no, it's not your fault, Richard, please. You know what I mean? But oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first off, you're not dying. You're you're not past your prime. You're doing great. You're entering your greatest time in your life.
I am. I mean, we're still figuring out if we want to have a third kid. I can't die.
Yeah, no, you're not dying. I hope people are okay with the fact that Katee is never going to die and she's going to live forever. I hope people are prepared for that.
You want to know what's funny? I was talking to my therapist and I said to him all of this stuff. And he said, and I said that halfway, that, I guess I'm halfway to death. And he goes, not anymore. There's so many advancements that you're going to live far beyond what you think you're going to live.
Yeah. And we've got to keep our greatest actors alive. So they're going to just keep pumping you full of whatever magic juice they have. And
what else do we have in the mail sack?
Well, I pulled a few comments about your birthday because people were commenting on the fact that we were commenting on the production schedule and how we were talking about your birthday, but it wasn't your birthday, but then it was your birthday, So we pulled a few comments related to these.
Zach5 said Katee is having a Schrodinger's birthday this episode. What does that mean?
Do you know Schrodinger's cat?
I know the saying, but I don't really know what it means.
It's the philosophical idea to explain quantum mechanics that if you put a cat in a box with some deadly poison, but you don't look at the box, the cat is both dead and alive because the probability of both is equal. So this person is using that as an analogy for you both are having a birthday, but not having a birthday.
This is sort of why people don't watch the last episode of Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Because there's hope. Like if you don't know they're dead, they might still be alive.
And Starbuck is sort of a Schrodinger type character because
there you go.
Based on our Ron episode, we don't know. She could be anything you want.
We'll never know. That was a Zach and at Zach5 question. At Bonzo Kilborn says April 15th, Katee has paid her taxes but hasn't paid her taxes. I didn't know what the fuck that meant. I know April 15th was taxes, but
it's another reference to
I
this
understand now.
Because we released the episode on the 15th, but we recorded it before the 15th.
Got it. People are really funny.
Yeah.
Really smart. Vec Trexter says, don't tell people how the sausage is made on a tax day. People are already disturbed enough. LOL. I already have made sausage, so the process doesn't bother me. That I don't get.
I think they're just trying to point out that they have actually made sausage. It's just a little humble brag at the end of their comment is what it is.
There you go. Brandon, an email. Remember, send those emails to the Sackhoff Show at gmail.com so we don't have to scour Twitter anymore looking for comments. A while back, I heard your response to my letter in regards to Splurge, and you brought up the Sam Witwer also paints minis. I met Sam when he came to Ocala Comic-Con. Guys, I'm going to Ocala this September. So excited. So's Jeff, actually. The show's going to be live there. Not live recording. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He and I had a cool moment sharing pictures and talking about painting them. I have to say, I got a little jealous when he brought up that he sends photos of his to Dave Filoni, I know. Subsequently, I hear you are also coming to Ocala this year. We haven't decided if we're going to go yet, but if we do, your line is one we want to wait in. We're doing a live show. Jeff wrote that. We are doing a live show there, you guys. Ocala is September. I can find this out really quick so you can get your tickets to this. Ocala is September 20th and 21st. The 19th, actually. So the 20th, 21st of September, Ocala, Florida. The 19th is Chicago for the Battlestar Galactica convention again. So Friday, I'm going to be in Chicago. And then Saturday, Sunday, I'll be in Florida.
But I will only be in Florida.
Jeff will only be in Florida. Our question, what would you change if you could go back in time? Did people give us answers?
No, this is what you talked to Will about. And I made you and Will talked about this based off the first story that's in his podcast. And you guys talked a little bit about this. It's just where you both discussed the idea of like not really wanting to change stuff, even despite all the trauma and the troubles and everything,
Right,
because
which we
you're
talked
both in a good place right now. You, for instance, are in the prime of your life right now. So I wanted to use that as our question. If people want to tell us if there's anything they would change.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, is there anything that you would change, you guys? I mean, I can think of like one tiny thing in my life that I would change, but I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it publicly.
I think there's just an aspect to this that is also, on topic here, but hindsight is 2020 type of thing. There are things that I look back at and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done that, or, good or bad, big or little. There are things that I was like scared of at the time that I look back at now and I'm like, you should have just done that, or done it earlier or done it sooner because it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be, that type of stuff.
Well, you never really know why something has happened until you are given the benefit of hindsight. I talk about this a lot in relation to my husband, and that having children with Robin was, thank God, I had children with my husband and not anyone I had dated before. Not that, I hadn't dated some wonderful people and my life would be very different. But my husband is hands down the best father I've ever seen. It's pretty wonderful to see. It's absolutely extraordinary. And, you never know why you're in a situation and you're going through a breakup and find out someone's cheated on you for, a million times. Like you can't see why that happened.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, you go, oh, thank God they did that.
Yeah.
Because had they not done that, I probably would have pined over them and then missed my husband.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's, you never really know until you find yourself where you're meant to be, why something happened before. And you make the choice to see that as a good thing or a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah. Will mentioned a couple of things, but he mentioned, in reference to this, he mentioned a short story about a Wikipedia article being updated about the death of Hitler.
Yes.
But the story, I haven't read the story yet, but I did find it. It's called Wiki History. It's by Desmond Wurzel. I'll put a link in the description of this episode. But I think the point is, you try to change the past and the past is always going to happen in its own way of some kind, So looking forward to reading that.
So what are some of the questions we're thinking about with the show, Jeff? I mean, we've been talking about doing a Patreon from the moment this started. From the moment we started this, even before you, when Christian was producing the show, back when we very, very, in the beginning, like more than 2 years ago at this point, we talked about the thought of that and didn't really love it back then.
Yeah.
And you and I have been toying with it. And I said that I never wanted to start a Patreon and feel like I wasn't giving something to the fans. Like if there wasn't something, if there wasn't added value to a Patreon, then I didn't want to do that, Yeah. And I think that we've sort of figured out what it is, what the added value is.
Yeah. I think we have some ideas and some thoughts, and I guess that could be part of the question here. If people want to let us know what they would like to see in this, there's a lot that we're thinking of, and there's a lot of considerations we're balancing between time and schedule and making sure that it is something that's valuable to people. But it's something that I think we're going to hopefully get off the ground very soon.
It may actually be this episode. We may have done it.
If it is this episode, then stay tuned for more content, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. But continue to let us know what you want to see, like what do people want from me, and from us in this show. And we're doing these really, really long episodes. And one of the things that we wanted to do is pull out more of this conversation that you and I have, where we can be a little bit more open, a little, and
have an opportunity to talk about things and just be more involved than we can be on YouTube. Just as an example, we on this episode, Will talked about some stuff that he had a second cousin that did a song. Like, we couldn't play that song on YouTube and react to it, but if we were over on Patreon, we could play it and you guys could hear it and we could talk about it and those kind of things.
One of the other things was that, when we were doing the live streamings in the morning, when the podcasts were coming out Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., we were building a really wonderful community there.
Yeah.
Those people, I want to continue to offer a platform where we can continue to build that community and talk amongst ourselves and have that conversation. So I'm excited by that, by the option of this. And, we're thinking about actually our live shows will only be available on the Patreon.
Lots of options, and I hopefully we're getting it off the ground soon. If it's not this episode, it'll be very, very soon.
Yeah.
But let us know what you would like to hear.
Absolutely. And on that note, Jeff, is that our last question?
That's our last question, unless we're going into a Patreon section, which if we are, stick around for that. If we're not, Katee, I'll let you take it from there.
I appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. We'll see you next Tuesday. And that's what's up.